15 mind-blowing facts about Iceland, the land of fire and ice. What if I told you there's a place on Earth where fire and ice live side by side? Literally. A place where the ground rumbles from active volcanoes while glaciers stretch across the land like sheets of frozen time. In this same place, people still talk about elves as if they're part of the family, and it's not even a joke. Oh, and did I mention you can swim between 2 continents without ever leaving the country? No, this isn't some fantasy movie or a made-up story. This is real life. This is Iceland. And once you understand what actually happens in this strange little country, your idea of what Earth can look like will completely change. Now, let's be honest. When you hear the word Iceland, what pops into your head? Probably snow, cold weather, and maybe a few puffins if you're lucky. But what if I told you this frozen-looking country is also filled with steaming hot rivers, bubbling mud pools, and lava fields that stretch as far as your eyes can see? It's true. Iceland isn't just cold. It's burning hot and freezing cold at the exact same time. That alone is weird enough, but trust me, we're just getting started. So, where exactly is this bizarre country? Iceland is an island located up in the North Atlantic Ocean, just below the Arctic Circle. It's kind of floating out there between North America and Europe, not really belonging to either. It's one of the most isolated countries in the world, but also one of the most connected, at least when it comes to nature and culture. And even though it's sitting up near the Arctic, the weather isn't always as brutal as you might expect. Thanks to warm ocean currents, winters are cold but not unbearable, and summers, surprisingly nice. Now, here's where it starts getting seriously strange. Iceland sits directly on top of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, basically the spot where 2 tectonic plates are slowly pulling away from each other. This is why the country has over 130 volcanoes, many of which are still active. And yet, somehow, the land is also home to giant glaciers that cover more than 10% of the entire country. This insane combination of ice and fire isn't just rare, it's completely unique. No other country in the world has this level of natural contrast packed into such a small space. And speaking of small, Iceland's population is just around 370,000 people. To put that in perspective, more people live in a single neighborhood of Los Angeles than in the entire country of Iceland. But what Iceland lacks in people, it makes up for in personality. The culture here is unlike anywhere else. People are friendly but private, open-minded but deeply traditional. They believe in elves. They write and read more books per person than almost any other country. They bathe in hot springs year-round. And they live in a land that's so visually shocking, it almost feels like Earth forgot to follow its own rules here. So, if you came into this thinking Iceland was just another cold northern country, buckle up. You're about to see the side of Iceland that most people never talk about. Because these next 15 facts will show you things you wouldn't believe unless someone actually explained them. And even then, you still might think they're fake. From underwater continental cracks to an entire nation that runs almost entirely on volcanic power. From horses that walk like they're dancing to laws protecting invisible creatures, this country makes zero sense, and that's exactly why. It's so fascinating. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Iceland isn't just a country. It's a whole different world hiding in plain sight. The kind of place that forces you to stop and ask yourself, how is this even possible? So, if you're into places that feel like science fiction, but are somehow 100% real, keep watching. Because Iceland isn't what you think it is. It's weirder, wilder, and way more unbelievable. And once we get into these facts, you'll see exactly why they call it the land of fire and ice. Fact 1. The land of fire and ice. There are only a few places on Earth where you can stand on a mountain of ice while watching fire shoot out of the ground. and Iceland is one of them. It's called the Land of Fire and Ice for a reason. The name isn't poetic, it's just the truth. Iceland has over 130 volcanoes, some of them still active, sitting on top of a land that's constantly shaking, shifting, and bubbling from the inside out. At the same time, the country is covered in massive glaciers, huge frozen rivers of ice that have been here for thousands of years. More than 10% of the land is covered by glaciers, and at least 30% is made of lava fields. That's already wild, but it gets crazier. In recent years, people all over the world have seen videos from Iceland's Fagradalsfjall volcano, which erupted not long ago after lying dormant for over 800 years. But instead of panicking or evacuating, Icelanders did something most people would find insane. They walked toward it. Not only did they get up close and personal with the lava, but many treated it like a natural light show, sitting back with snacks and cameras while the ground cracked open in front of them. Here's where it gets surreal. Imagine standing there, freezing cold, with snow on the ground all around you, and right in front of you, glowing red lava oozing out like molten glass. It shouldn't be possible. And yet, in Iceland, this kind of moment happens more often than you'd expect. Volcanoes here don't always come with disaster. In fact, they're part of the culture. People live near them, hike on them, even heat their homes with the energy created by them. It's almost as if Iceland has made peace with the fact that it lives on top of a ticking time bomb. But there's something emotional about this contrast, too. It's not just a scientific oddity. The way Iceland balances destruction and beauty, lava and snow, chaos and calm, it kind of feels like life itself. Messy, unpredictable, but absolutely mesmerizing. And that's just the first fact. We're barely scratching the surface of how bizarre, dangerous, and stunning Iceland can be. If this country can keep ice and fire in the same frame without falling apart, what else is it hiding? Keep watching. Fact 2. You can swim between continents. This sounds made up, but in Iceland, you can literally swim between two continents. Not figuratively, literally. There's a crack in the earth called the Silfra Fissure, and it sits in Thingvellir National Park, right on top of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the point where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates are slowly pulling apart. Most places where continents meet are buried deep under oceans, unreachable and invisible. But not here. In Iceland, the earth is so alive, so exposed, that you can just grab a snorkel and float between them. It's like the planet forgot to put up the "Do Not Enter" sign. And the water, it's so clear, it doesn't even feel real. Visibility stretches up to 100 meters, which is insane even by scuba diving standards. That's because the water comes from melted glacier ice that's been slowly filtered through lava rock for decades before it reaches the fissure. It's not just cold, it's glacier cold, barely above freezing. But it's also the purest water you'll probably ever touch, let alone swim in. People describe the experience like entering another world. But I'd say it's more like being stuck between two. The moment you dip your head underwater, everything goes silent. It's just you, the crack in the earth, and two continental plates towering on either side of you, stretching out into the bluest, clearest nothing you've ever seen. Some say it feels like time stops. Others say it feels like they're floating in space. Either way, it's the kind of moment that sticks to your soul. Now imagine reaching out with both hands, each one touching a different continent. One hand in Europe, the other in North America. No passport, no airport, no border control, just pure, raw earth doing its thing, and you, swimming right through the middle of it. It's one of the only places on the planet where this is even possible. And it's not just a gimmick for thrill seekers. It's a spiritual moment for a lot of people. There's something strangely emotional about realizing that you're drifting in a crack where the planet is slowly tearing itself apart, but calmly, beautifully. This isn't something you forget. It's not just an adventure. It's a reminder that the world is far bigger, far weirder, and far more connected than we think. And Iceland doesn't just show you that, it lets you touch it, and trust me, this is only the second fact. Iceland has barely even started showing off. Fact 3. Iceland's crazy day-night cycle. Let's talk about light, or the shocking lack of it. In Iceland, your concept of day and night basically breaks down. During summer, the sun forgets how to set, and in winter, it forgets how to rise. Sounds poetic, right? But living through it, it's wild. From May to July, Iceland experiences what's known as the midnight sun. That's not just a romantic phrase. It's real sunlight at midnight. Golden rays stretching across the sky while your brain's screaming, "It's bedtime. What's going on?" You can walk outside at 2 a.m. and feel like it's 4 p.m. Birds chirping, people barbecuing, kids riding bikes in broad daylight in the middle of the night. Now flip that. Come December, and you get the exact opposite. The polar nights. The sun barely creeps above the horizon, if it shows up at all. Imagine entire weeks where you wake up in the dark, go to work in the dark, and come home. Still in the dark. Days, where morning and evening feel identical. It's not just trippy, it messes with your head. You'd think this would drive people insane. And honestly, for some, it kind of does. There are higher rates of seasonal depression during the dark months. People talk about the winter fog, where everything feels heavy, slow, and a little hopeless. But Icelanders don't just sit in the darkness and mope. They've found incredibly smart, and sometimes hilarious, ways to deal with it. For starters, they use mood lights, specially designed lamps that mimic sunlight. They swear by them. You'll see homes glowing with warm, cozy lighting, trying to trick the brain into believing the sun's still around. Then there's the love for hot chocolate, books, and higgy vibes, that warm, soul-soothing comfort thing. Think candles, fuzzy socks, soft music, and a culture that leans into winter like it's a lifestyle, not a problem. But here's the twist. Some Icelanders love the darkness. It brings quiet, calm, a chance to reflect. And when the northern lights dance across that endless night sky, suddenly the darkness doesn't feel like a curse. It feels like a stage. On the flip side, the midnight sun, that brings energy. Icelanders use the extra daylight to hike, party, and travel non-stop. Sleep schedules go out the window, and nobody really minds. You'll see people playing golf at midnight, chilling in hot springs with sunglasses on, or even starting road trips after dinner. Why? Because why not? Now, imagine living in a place where time loses all meaning, where light and dark stop following the rules. It's weird, sure, but it also forces you to adapt, to laugh at the absurdity, to slow down in the dark and come alive in the light, and if nothing else, it makes every day and night feel like a little rebellion against normal, and we're still only scratching the surface of Iceland's madness. Fact 4. Geothermal power, Sikuru, free heat. This one might just make you jealous. In Iceland, heating is basically free. Yup, imagine never stressing about gas bills again. While the rest of the world argues over energy prices, Icelanders are chilling, literally, in their naturally heated homes. Here's how it works. Iceland sits on top of insane geothermal activity. The Earth's core is bubbling just beneath the surface, and they figured out how to harness that power like pros. Over 85% of homes are heated directly from this underground energy. That means radiators, showers, even the hot tap in your kitchen, all warmed up by the Earth itself. And it's not just homes. In some towns, the sidewalks are heated too. Seriously. Snow melts instantly on the roads. You can walk around during winter without slipping on frozen streets like you would anywhere else. Even greenhouses are warmed up with geothermal steam, allowing fresh fruits and vegetables to grow all year. even in a country where it's freezing for half the year. But it's not perfect. There's a little trade-off. When you turn on the hot water in Iceland, you might notice a smell, kind of like rotten eggs. That's sulfur naturally occurring in the geothermal water. It's totally safe, just stinky. Locals are used to it. But tourists always ask, why does the shower smell like a science experiment? Now here's where it gets really cool. This isn't just cheap, it's clean. Iceland is one of the few countries in the world where nearly 100% of electricity and heat come from renewable energy, mostly geothermal and hydropower. That's massive. They're not just saving money, they're saving the environment. Think about this. In most countries, heating your house during winter is a big deal. It drains money, energy, and the planet. In Iceland, it's just part of the ground. The earth gives them warmth, literally. No guilt, no carbon footprint. Just hot showers with a bit of a funky smell. So, while we're busy layering sweaters and fighting with thermostats, Icelanders are enjoying naturally heated homes, warm roads, and tomatoes grown in the snow, all thanks to the fire beneath their feet. Crazy, right? And that's just one more reason why Iceland feels like it's not even part of Earth. Fact 5. Iceland believes in elves okay. Let's get this out of the way. Yes, Icelanders take elves seriously. And no, this isn't just some touristy folklore for fun. We're talking about real-life road projects getting canceled because of invisible beings. Here's the thing. Ask an Icelander if they believe in elves, and most won't say yes. But they won't say no either. Instead, they'll shrug and say something like, well, maybe. More than 50% of the population admits that elves might be real. Not because they've seen one, but because they've heard enough strange stories to keep an open mind. And in Iceland, keeping an open mind can literally shape the land. Let me explain. There's a specific type of rock here called an elf stone. It's said to be the home of the hidden people, the Huldufolk, Iceland's version of elves. These aren't your jingle bell-wearing Santa's little helper types. No, Icelandic elves are different. They're mysterious, powerful, and fiercely protective of their territory. They dress like humans, live in parallel communities, and you don't want to mess with them. Now here's where it gets wild. When the Icelandic government was building a new highway near Reykjavik, they planned to cut through a giant lava rock formation. But locals protested, not for environmental reasons, but because they said the rock belonged to elves. No joke. The project was paused for months. A special elf spokesperson was brought in to negotiate. In the end, they changed the entire route of the road to avoid disturbing the elf home. It sounds unbelievable, until you realize this isn't a one-time thing. It's happened multiple times. City planners regularly consult elf specialists before digging or moving earth. Construction companies sometimes hold ceremonies to ask the elves for permission. And nobody laughs. Because in Iceland, you don't laugh at the old stories. You respect them. See, for Icelanders, this isn't just superstition. It's cultural memory. The belief in elves connects people to the land. It's part of a deeper respect for nature. The idea that some places just aren't meant to be touched, that some stones, hills, or trees have an energy that shouldn't be disturbed. There's something beautiful about that, isn't there? In a world obsessed with proof and science, Iceland quietly holds space for mystery. They don't need to see the elves. They just feel it's better not to test them. They don't believe, they know. So, next time you're walking through an Icelandic lava field and feel a sudden chill, or your GPS gets weird, maybe say hi, just in case. Fact 7. The Icelandic horse. Proud and pure. Let me tell you about a horse so loyal, so uniquely gifted, and so protected that once it leaves its home country, it's never allowed back, ever. That's not a punishment, it's respect. Meet the Icelandic horse, a breed so pure It's been untouched by foreign genes for over 1,000 years. These horses aren't just animals here, they're part of Iceland's soul. Now, here's where it gets wild. These horses have a special gait called the tolt, and it looks like something out of a fantasy film. It's so smooth that riders say you could carry a full glass of water and not spill a drop while riding. No trotting, no jostling, just a gliding, elegant flow across lava fields and snow-covered hills. It's like the horse is floating, and it's mesmerizing to watch. But the uniqueness doesn't stop there, because Iceland is fiercely protective of its horses. If an Icelandic horse ever leaves the island for competition, training, or sale, it can never return. Not because they don't love it, but because they can't risk contamination. Icelandic horses have never been exposed to the diseases that other horses around the world carry. There are no vaccinations for certain equine illnesses here because they simply don't exist in Iceland, and the only way to keep it that way. Total genetic isolation. That means no other horses are allowed into the country either. Period. Even riding equipment brought from overseas has to be thoroughly disinfected before it enters Iceland. You can feel how sacred this relationship is the moment you meet one. The bond between the Icelanders and their horses is something else. It's emotional. These aren't farm animals to them. They're companions, workers, and in many ways, national treasures. The horses themselves? They're smaller than you'd expect, almost pony-sized, but don't call them ponies. That's considered an insult in Iceland. These animals are tough. They've adapted to harsh climates, steep terrain, and centuries of volcanic winters. And here's the twist most tourists don't expect. Riding an Icelandic horse is one of the top travel experiences in the country. People fly from all over the world to take guided horseback journeys across lava fields, along black sand beaches, and even under the northern lights. The moment you ride one, you feel like you're connecting to something ancient, a living relic, of Viking times that still moves through this world with grace and fire. In a way, the Icelandic horse symbolizes Iceland itself, small but mighty, unique, fiercely independent, and proud of its purity. Once you ride one, you'll never forget the feeling. And just like the horse that can't come home once it leaves, a piece of you might stay behind too. Fact 6. The country with no army. This might sound completely insane in today's world, but Iceland doesn't have an army. Not a small one, not a secret one. None. Zero. Zilch. No tanks, no fighter jets, no troops marching in formation. It's the only NATO country with no standing military force. And yet, it's one of the safest countries on Earth. How is that even possible? Let me explain how a place like Iceland can exist in a world filled with border tensions, war budgets, and constant conflict, and somehow still thrive in total peace. So, first of all, yes, Iceland is a proud member of NATO. But when it joined back in 1949, it made one thing clear: no permanent military of its own. Instead, the country relies on defense agreements and partnerships, particularly with the United States and other NATO allies. From time to time, Allied military forces will visit, train, or patrol Icelandic airspace. But Iceland itself? It doesn't keep a single soldier on standby. Think about that for a second. In a world where countries are building billion-dollar defense budgets and stockpiling weapons, Iceland has chosen a radically different approach: trust and diplomacy. Now you might ask, but what if Iceland is attacked? Well, that's where things get interesting. The country's defense strategy isn't built on firepower. It's built on alliances, location, and stability. Iceland has no direct enemies, no regional disputes, and no history of modern warfare. It's literally sitting on a cold rock in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, far away from the world's flashpoints. And here's the emotional twist. This tiny, unarmed island consistently ranks among the safest countries on Earth. According to the Global Peace Index, Iceland has been ranked number 1 for peacefulness every single year since 2008. Crime rates almost non-existent. Violent crime? Rare. Police officers? Many don't even carry guns. So, the big question: can a country be truly safe without guns, tanks, or an army? Iceland is living proof that it's possible. And not just possible, practical. Their focus is on education, healthcare, and quality of life instead of defense spending. Instead of pouring billions into military budgets, they invest in things that actually make people feel secure. Trust in neighbors, mental health care, and strong community ties. And here's a wild twist: the Icelandic Coast Guard is technically the country's main defense force, but most of its work is search and rescue missions, monitoring natural disasters, and protecting fishing zones, not fighting wars. Iceland's bet is simple: the best way to stay safe is to give the world no reason to attack. And so far, it's working. Fact 8. Puffin Island, cutest bird. Capital: imagine a place where the skies are filled with tiny, chubby, adorable little birds that look like they belong in a children's cartoon. Well, that place is Iceland, and the stars of the show? Puffins.Iceland is home to 60% of the world's puffin population. That's more than 3 million puffins right here, perched on cliffs, diving into the ocean and waddling around like they own the place. Seriously, when puffins are in town, they take over. These birds are so iconic in Iceland that they're practically national treasures. You'll find them nesting along the towering cliffs on Latrabjarg, the country's most famous puffin spot, where the birds get up close and personal with the tourists. In fact, they're so unafraid of humans, you can almost reach out and touch them, though, of course, you shouldn't. Let them be. The puffins are an absolute must-see, and the best. Part? They aren't just beautiful, they're also hilarious. Watching these birds waddle around with their oversized beaks and stocky bodies is enough to make anyone crack a smile. And when they fly? Oh, it's like watching a plane trying to take off without enough runway. It's both impressive and downright funny. How do they even stay in the air? But here's a twist that might surprise you. Puffins weren't always just cute creatures hanging out on cliffs. Not long ago, they were on the dinner plate. Yes, eating puffins used to be a thing in Icelandic culture. In fact, it's still legal to hunt them today, although it's more of a traditional delicacy rather than a common dish. Back in the day, puffins were an important source of food for Iceland's remote coastal villages. The birds were easy to catch and their meat was often preserved for the harsh winters. It might sound shocking now, but at one point puffins were as common as chicken in Icelandic kitchens. Today, however, things have changed. Puffins are no longer a food source for most Icelanders. Instead, they've become cultural icons, representing the wild and untamed spirit of Iceland. They're on everything, from postcards and souvenirs to clothing and even Icelandic beer labels. In fact, puffins have become so symbolic of Iceland that they are often featured in tourism campaigns, attracting thousands of birdwatchers every year. These birds are now protected, and efforts are being made to ensure their habitats remain safe from human interference. But it's not just the puffin's cuteness that draws people in. The cliff-hanging visuals of puffins perched on Iceland's steep rock faces create a dramatic, almost otherworldly sight. It's a perfect blend of the island's raw beauty and natural humor. And when you hear the puffin's little ha-ha calls echoing in the distance, you can't help but laugh, because, really, how could anyone resist the charm of these feathered little clowns? So, the next time you see a puffin, don't just admire its plump little body and bright orange beak. Remember, this bird has been part of Iceland's identity for centuries. From the plates of ancient villagers to the walls of modern-day tourists' homes. These puffins are more than just cute animals. They are a reminder that even in a place as rugged as Iceland, there's always room for a little laughter and joy. Fact 9. World's first democracy. When you think of democracy, you probably think of elections, politicians, and countries with long-standing political systems. But did you know that the world's first democracy wasn't built by the Romans or ancient Greeks? Nope. It was Iceland, and it all started in 930 AD. Long before any of us had a chance to even think about representative government, the Alþingi, pronounced Alþingi, parliament, was founded in Iceland. This was the first democratic assembly in history, and it was formed by the Vikings themselves. Yes, the same Vikings who are famous for their raids and battles were also the architects of democracy as we know it today. This wasn't a modern parliament, with elected officials and fancy buildings. It was a gathering of chieftains and settlers at a place known as Thingvellir, a stunning valley located in what is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was here, in this breathtaking setting, that the first parliamentary meetings took place, where laws were created and disputes were settled by consensus. No kings, no emperors, just a group of independent leaders from all over Iceland coming together, not to fight, but to make decisions together. And trust me, back in the days of the Vikings, that was a huge deal. Imagine a time when society was built on power and conquest, but in Iceland it was all about talking it out, agreeing on what was best for the community. At Thingvellir, meetings would be held on Almannagjá, the Althing Gorge, a massive rift valley that marks the meeting point between the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates. Picture this: 800 years ago, a group of Vikings standing on this very land, debating laws and decisions that would shape the future of Iceland. And what makes it even more remarkable is that these discussions were open to all. Anyone could speak, eat up, voice their concerns, and have their say. That's right, even the common folk had a chance to be heard, unlike most other societies of that time. Now, here's the twist that makes Iceland's history even more fascinating. No kings. Iceland's democracy was never about royal power or control. Instead, the Vikings, known for their independence and adventurous spirit, ran things with a shared responsibility and an emphasis on consensus. Every decision was made by the people, and the idea of central monarchical power never really took root. Fast forward to today, and while Iceland is a modern country, it still carries the spirit of its ancient past. The Thingvellir site isn't just a place of historical importance, it's a symbol of how the Icelandic people continue to approach life and politics. In fact, the modern Icelandic government still takes inspiration from those early parliamentary roots, ensuring that discussions are inclusive and built on mutual respect. What's truly mind-blowing is that Iceland has never strayed from its roots. This tiny country, where the cold wind howls over snow-covered peaks and glaciers, has managed to preserve its commitment to democracy, blending it with a sense of Nordic progressiveness. So the next time you think of democracy, think of the Vikings of Iceland. The first people to show the world that democracy is about collaboration, not domination. Fact 10. Everyone is related. Almost. Imagine living in a place where everyone knows everyone. Sounds like a small-town dream, right? Well, welcome to Iceland, where it's not just everyone knows everyone, but everyone is somehow related. You heard me right. In this small island nation, you could be chatting at a bar or swiping through dating apps, only to find out that your date is your third cousin twice removed. Yikes, right? But Iceland has a solution for this very awkward problem. A sophisticated app called the Íslendingabók, or Iceland's Book of Icelanders. It's an app that helps you track your family tree, so you can avoid accidentally dating your relatives. Seriously. The app allows Icelanders to trace their lineage and see if they share a family history with the person standing next to them. No matter how far back that connection goes. It's hard to imagine how this came to be, but Iceland has a population of just around 350,000 people. That's really small, especially for a country that's a global tourist destination. When you live in such a small, close-knit society, it's inevitable that families are interwoven. So, if you happen to date someone in Iceland, there's a high probability that you share some distant bloodline. It's like being in a real-life version of that joke where you ask, "How do you find a date in Iceland?" You just ask, "Who's your family?" Now, before you start panicking about every date you go on, keep in mind that not every person is actually related. Thankfully, the app has saved many a relationship by letting people know that they should swipe left on their family tree instead of swiping right on the dating app. But let's be honest, while it's humorous, there's something a little eerie about living in a place where you might run into your relative at every corner. For some, the idea of being so closely connected to everyone around you sounds comforting. Iceland is known for its strong sense of community, and that means people look out for each other, support one another, and are incredibly loyal. But for others, it might feel a little claustrophobic. Imagine going to a party, and there's a 90% chance that someone there is somehow part of your family. It might not be ideal for the super independent traveler looking to experience anonymity. Sure, the people are friendly, and the sense of unity is strong, but in a place this small, you don't have to look far to see a relative, whether it's at work, at the grocery store, or on the dating app. Icelanders themselves handle this with dark humor, often joking about how much they love their country, but how it's hard to find someone to date without wondering if they're your cousin. The truth is, though, this small, interconnected society does something really powerful. It fosters a sense of togetherness. Everyone knows that they're part of something bigger than themselves, and that tight-knit feeling is a huge part of what makes Iceland such a unique and special place. So, while the idea of dating your cousin might make you cringe, it's just one of the many quirky things that make Iceland so refreshingly different. Would you want to live in a place like this? Or is the idea of dating your cousin too much to bear? Fact 11. You can drink tap water from a glacier. Imagine this. You're standing in the heart of Iceland, surrounded by towering glaciers and breathtaking volcanic landscapes, and you're thirsty. So, what do? You simply walk over to the nearest tap, turn the handle, and drink the freshest water on Earth. Sounds unreal, doesn't it? But in Iceland, this is a daily reality. Iceland is blessed with some of the purest, cleanest water on the planet, and it's not just bottled up and sold as premium water at a fancy price. Nope. Icelandic tap water comes straight from glaciers, volcanic springs, and deep underground aquifers. It's so fresh that there's no need for filtration. Seriously. No filters, no chemicals, just straight-up water from nature's purest sources. Imagine drinking a glass of water that's been untouched for thousands of years. It's a symbol of Iceland's natural purity, a nation where the Earth's elements come together in perfect harmony. The country's water systems are fed by glacial melt, and the glaciers themselves are formed from centuries of accumulated snow. So, when you drink Icelandic tap water, you're not just sipping a beverage, you're drinking the Earth's purest offering. The locals are proud of their water, and they should be. It's an everyday luxury that most of the world will never experience. There's something almost magical about the idea of drinking from a glacier, knowing that the water has been filtered and purified by the land itself over centuries. You don't need to worry about chemicals, pollutants, or any of the concerns that come with tap water in most other places. But, as a tourist, when you first get a taste of Icelandic water, you might find yourself in utter disbelief. Tourists often say it's the best water they've ever had, crisp, clean, and refreshing in a way that tap water from other countries just can't compare. You might even catch yourself taking a moment to appreciate how this simple, clear liquid feels like a treat, something pure and untarnished by modern systems. And the locals? They take their water pride seriously. They'll tell you that no matter where you go in Iceland, the tap water is as pure as it gets. There's no bottled water to compare with it here because why would you need it? They've got the real deal right from their taps. This fact isn't just about convenience. It's a reminder of how untouched and pristine Iceland is. In a world where pollution runs rampant and bottled water is a billion-dollar industry, Iceland offers a glimpse into what true environmental purity looks like. It's a reminder that nature, when respected, can provide us with everything we need: clean air, pure water, and the raw beauty of the planet. So, the next time you turn on the tap in Iceland, remember this: you're drinking water that's as close to nature's purest form as possible. And for many visitors, this small but incredible experience is just one more reason Iceland is the world's undisputed champion of purity. Would you ever imagine drinking tap water this pure, straight from a glacier? Fact 12. Iceland has a dating problem. Iceland might look like a paradise, with its stunning landscapes, picturesque villages, and otherworldly beauty. But when it comes to dating, the reality isn't as dreamy as you might think. Iceland has a dating problem, and it's more complicated than you might assume. For starters, Iceland is an island nation with a small population. Only about 370,000 people live there, making it one of the most sparsely populated countries in Europe. In such a tight-knit community, everyone knows everyone, and that can make finding a romantic partner a bit tricky. Imagine dating in a place where your ex's best friend might be someone you see on the regular, or where your family tree could be just one branch away from your dates. With this much interconnectedness, Icelanders have created a solution that's part clever, part essential: the Íslendingabók app, the Book of Icelanders. This dating app helps people avoid dating their cousins. And let's be real, in a country where almost everyone is somehow related, this is a real concern. The app shows how intertwined their relationships are, acting as a genealogy tool that allows you to check if your date shares any family roots with you. It's the perfect way to avoid accidentally swiping left on your own family tree. But it also reveals the bizarre nature of Iceland's dating scene, where isolation and family connections create unique problems in the romance department. Now, beyond the family tree situation, there's also a social dynamic that's less about proximity and more about shyness. Icelandic people are known for being introverted, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. The Viking spirit might suggest boldness and bravery, but in reality, social anxiety is a huge factor in the dating scene. The same people who will happily chat with you about Icelandic volcanoes or elves might freeze up when asked about their feelings, and awkwardness reigns supreme when it comes to meeting new people. The tension between Icelandic Viking pride and modern-day shyness can create a stifling atmosphere, especially for singles looking for a connection. The rugged, self-sufficient spirit that defines Icelandic culture doesn't always lend itself well to open emotional vulnerability. So, instead of getting swept away by passionate romance, many Icelanders deal with the loneliness of being surrounded by so many people but still struggling to form meaningful relationships. But here's where the story gets even more intriguing. While Icelanders continue to grapple with social awkwardness and dating isolation, they're turning to technology to bridge the gap. Dating apps like Tinder and Íslendingabók have gained popularity, helping to make connections in a way that wasn't possible a generation ago. Matchmaking and socializing are being reinvented by technology, but it's not a perfect solution. The small population, combined with the intimate knowledge of everyone's background, still creates an undeniable feeling of loneliness in paradise. So, while Iceland offers breathtaking natural beauty, thriving cultures, and unique landscapes, when it comes to love and relationships, it's a whole different ballgame. With such a small dating pool, social anxiety, and a deep sense of isolation, Icelanders continue to navigate a tricky path to love. And maybe, just maybe, the truly surprising part of living in Iceland isn't the beauty of the country, but the emotional complexity of finding love in this land of fire and ice. Would you be ready to take the plunge in a place where everyone is somehow related and social anxiety runs high? Or would the loneliness in paradise get to you? Fact 13. The Icelandic language. Time machine. If you want to experience a living link to the past, look no further than the Icelandic language. It's like stepping into a time machine, a linguistic time capsule that hasn't changed much in over 1,000 years. While most languages evolve over centuries, Icelandic has remained remarkably close to its Viking roots. If you walked into an Icelandic classroom today, you might just find a group of kids reading the old Viking sagas, the same epic tales written over 1,000 years ago. And no, this isn't some outdated history class exercise. Icelandic children read these stories like storybooks, absorbing them as part of their living culture. In a world where languages are constantly evolving, where slang replaces formal words faster than you can blink, Iceland stands as a striking exception. The Icelandic language is incredibly pure, preserving many of the same linguistic features as it did during the Viking Age. And while that might sound like an academic curiosity, to Icelanders it's a matter of national pride. The language isn't just words on a page or something to be spoken, it's a living embodiment of their heritage and identity. Icelanders take their language seriously, and that's why they're so careful about preserving it. Modern Icelanders can pick up an ancient Viking saga, a story that might have been penned centuries ago, and read it almost as easily as a modern novel. The roots of Icelandic are so well preserved that even the Old Norse language, spoken by the Vikings themselves, is still largely intelligible to people who speak Icelandic today. This direct connection to the past is something that's not only fascinating, but also deeply cherished in Icelandic culture. But the love for the language doesn't stop with the old sagas. Icelanders take great pride in creating new words that fit into their linguistic tradition. Want to talk about a computer? In Icelandic, it's not just a borrowed word from English. It's a literal mashup of Icelandic roots, tölva, which combines tala, number, and völva, prophetess. It's not just a technological marvel, it's a clever, linguistically consistent way of evolving without abandoning tradition. In Iceland, even the new words sound like they belong in the ancient sagas. This sense of language preservation is a source of deep pride for Icelanders. The fact that they can still understand and read the works of their Viking ancestors is a testament to their commitment to cultural continuity. In fact, the Icelandic Language Institute continues to monitor the language's use and ensure that it stays true to its roots. There's a strong belief that the language plays a key role in maintaining their cultural identity, and it's not just about tradition. For many Icelanders, keeping their language alive is a statement about who they are and where they come from. So, next time you're in Iceland and someone greets you with "Vad segir þú?" How are you? Remember, this is a greeting straight out of the Viking Age. It's more than just a phrase, it's a connection to centuries of history. And, in a world where languages constantly change, Icelandic remains one of the most remarkably preserved languages on Earth. Isn't it wild to think that in Iceland, you can hear the words of Vikings in everyday conversations? A living time machine, right under your feet. Would you like to live in a place where even the words you speak connect you directly to a history so rich, it's still part of your daily life? Fact 14. Most badass people in Europe. Iceland isn't just a land of fire and ice. It's also home to some of the most badass people in Europe. And I'm not just talking about their volcanoes and glaciers. Icelanders have this quiet strength about them. They don't need to shout to make an impact. They just act, and they do it in a way that's both inspiring and powerful. Let's start with Icelandic women, because Iceland has a reputation for being ahead of the curve when it comes to gender equality. In fact, Iceland has led the world in gender equality for years, and one of the standout examples of this is their first female president, Vigdís Finnbogadóttir. She made history in 1980 by becoming the world's first democratically elected female president. Think about that. Over 40 years ago, a tiny island nation in the North Atlantic was already leading the world in terms of women's political leadership. To this day, Iceland continues to push the boundaries, with women holding top political positions and leading the charge for social reform. But the strength of Icelandic people doesn't stop at politics. It extends into the physical realm as well, particularly with Iceland's heavy involvement in strongman competitions. One of the most famous athletes to emerge from Iceland is none other than Hafþór Björnsson, also known as the Mountain. Yes, the same guy who played Sir Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, in Game of Thrones. Hafþór is one of the strongest men in the world and has won the prestigious World's Strongest Man competition. If that doesn't scream badass, I don't know what does. But it's not just his size that makes him formidable. It's the discipline, determination, and work ethic that Icelanders embody in every aspect of their lives, from politics to sports to everyday life. Beyond their physical strength, Icelandic people are also known for their remarkable mental fortitude. They face some of the most challenging conditions on Earth, with long, harsh winters and constant isolation from the rest of the world. And yet, Icelanders seem to just get on with it. There's this stoic mindset ingrained in their culture. Icelanders don't complain about their circumstances. They just get things done. They adapt to the brutal realities of life in a way that many of us can only admire. Then there's the strongman spirit that Icelanders carry, not just in sports, but in everything they do. It's about resilience. Hafþór Björnsson isn't the only one who embodies this attitude. It's reflected across the country. Icelanders are survivors in the truest sense. Whether it's battling through the long, dark winters or dealing with natural disasters like volcanic eruptions, Icelanders have this remarkable ability to power through and come out stronger on the other side. You see, Iceland's rugged, wild environment has created a culture of toughness, not just in the physical sense, but in the way Icelanders live their everyday lives. From their commitment to education to their political leadership to their incredible athleticism, Icelanders don't shout about their achievements. They just do it, and they do it with an intensity that's hard to match. So, the next time you think about the toughest people in Europe, don't overlook Iceland. These people have proven time and time again that they can take on the world, whether it's in the form of politics, sports, or simply surviving in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. Icelanders don't scream, they just act, and they do so with a level of strength that's truly unmatched. Wouldn't it be incredible to live in a place where strength isn't just physical, but also rooted in the very way people live and lead their lives? Fact 15. The Northern Lights. Imagine standing in the middle of an icy, snow-covered field, under a sky painted with swirling shades of green, purple, and pink. The Northern Lights, or Aurora Borealis, are a spectacle that stops time. Iceland, being one of the best places on Earth to witness this natural phenomenon, offers a chance to experience nature's most hypnotic wonder. But what might surprise you is that while tourists chase the lights across the country, locals often go about their day as if they've seen this celestial dance 1,000 times. The Northern Lights are visible in Iceland for nearly 8 months, a year from September to April, when the dark, crisp skies are perfect for catching a glimpse of the colorful lights that streak across the horizon. The lights appear because of charged particles from the sun colliding with the Earth's magnetic field, creating an electrifying display in the sky. But while tourists book flights months in advance, praying for clear skies and optimal viewing conditions, the locals are far less fazed by it all. To them, it's just another night in the land where nature's beauty is far from a rarity. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. The spiritual symbolism of the Northern Lights runs deep in Icelandic culture. The lights aren't just an incredible visual phenomenon, they're also part of the country's mythology and folklore. In ancient Icelandic belief, the aurora was thought to be a bridge between the worlds, connecting the living and the spirits. Some believed the lights were the spirits of ancestors dancing in the sky, while others thought they were the reflections of armor worn by Viking warriors in battle. So, even though today we understand the lights scientifically, their mystical allure still holds a place in the hearts of Icelanders. From a scientific perspective, the Aurora Borealis is a result of solar wind, charged particles from the sun, hitting the Earth's magnetosphere. These particles spiral along the Earth's magnetic field lines and create a beautiful glow. The colors in the lights depend on the type of gas in the atmosphere and the altitude at which the particles collide. Green is the most common color, but the lights can also appear in red, purple, blue, and yellow, creating an otherworldly display. What's most remarkable about the northern lights in Iceland is how much they're embedded in the Icelandic experience. For visitors, the lights symbolize a journey to the edge of the world, an opportunity to witness something few people will ever see. For locals, though, it's a reminder of their connection to nature, to their history, and to something much greater than themselves. The emotional impact of seeing the northern lights is undeniable. For many, it's a bucket list experience, a dream come true that feels almost spiritual. And for those fortunate enough to witness the lights, it's a reminder of the beauty and mystery that the world holds, often just beyond our reach. The wee, dancing lights fill the night sky with a sense of wonder and magic. And no matter how many times you see them, they always seem to carry that same sense of awe. The northern lights in Iceland aren't just a light show. They're a living testament to the wild, unpredictable, and incredibly beautiful forces of nature. They remind us how small we are in the grand scheme of things, but also how lucky we are to witness such breathtaking phenomena. And for anyone lucky enough to experience them, the northern lights are more than just a visual wonder. They're a soul-stirring reminder of how beautiful and mysterious our planet truly is. Iceland is not just a country. It's a living contradiction, a place that challenges everything we think we know about Earth. From volcanoes erupting next to glaciers, to elves hiding in rocks, to the northern lights lighting up the sky as if the universe itself is putting on a show. Iceland is weirdly perfect. It's a land of extremes, where fire meets ice and science dances with myth. Think about it. You can swim between two continents in the Silfra Fissure, stare into the heart of an active volcano while snowflakes drift around you, and then talk to a local about the time the government halted construction to preserve an elf rock. Or maybe you just spent hours chasing the northern lights, only to realize that while you're in awe, the locals are casually going about their business, as if the aurora is nothing special. Let's rewind to a few of the moments that really show what makes Iceland stand out. The fact that 85% of homes are heated by the Earth's core, no bills, no problems. Or the idea that in Iceland, everyone is related, thanks to a small population and an app that keeps your dating life elf-free. Then, of course, there's the Northern Lights, nature's most hypnotic spectacle, glowing above a land where the locals don't just live in harmony with the land, they almost become it. Iceland isn't just a place you visit, it's a place that changes your perspective on what's possible. Whether it's the mysteries of the past or the wonders of nature, Iceland forces you to rethink reality itself. So, now I've got to ask you, if you had one ticket to anywhere in the world, where would it go? Would you spend it standing on a lava field, watching the Earth literally change beneath your feet? Or would you take it under the Northern Lights, hoping to catch a glimpse of the most hypnotic light show nature has to offer? Or maybe you just want to know once and for all if elves are real, because in Iceland, anything feels possible. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear which mind-blowing fact about Iceland spoke to you the most. Was it the volcanoes, the elves, or something even weirder? Whatever it is, Iceland has a way of making us question everything, and I'm curious where your imagination lands. And hey, Iceland isn't the only place with stories that defy logic and physics. If you think this country is mind-blowing, just wait until you see what we have coming next. So go ahead, hit that comment section, and let me know where you'd head next if given the chance. Maybe you'll find your next adventure, or maybe just a few more mind-bending facts.